Today in Outside the Box Reviews, we are going to be taking a look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Monsterarts Gamera figure from the 1999 film Gamera vs. Iris, the last one of the Heisei Gamera trilogy. And out of the three designs they have for Gamera going across the 90s films, this one is my favorite. For a long time, the only one Monsterarts had given us was the Legion version of Gamera, which was cool, but I think some of the gimmicks on that made that figure a little fragile and something I didn't really feel inclined to pick up all that often and repose because I just didn't want to lose any little stomach pieces to it. But this version's pretty different looking and has some very unique aspects to it compared to that other figure. So let's jump right in, take a look at how Gamera is really neat, and figure out if he is really full of turtle meat. For accessories, we do get an alternate hand for his left hand. This is the kind of like plasma hand that he has for fighting Iris. So it's made of really nice translucent orange plastic, but you can see it fades down kind of into his standard flesh tone there at the base. To put this on, you just have to grab Gamera below his second joint there, pop that arm off, and then pop in your new arm, and this is how I prefer to have him pose. I think it looks fantastic. It gives a really great effect, and I think it definitely adds a pop of color as well to having Gamera on display, which is always cool. The other parts we get are for Gamera's flight form. So we get a base. This is a base we've gotten a few times before. I think we got it a couple times with Godzilla, and with the previous Gamera release, it's kind of a flame effect made into translucent orange. It kind of gets darker red up there towards the spikes of it. You have a port there at the bottom, and I wasn't sure at first. I thought I had mixed up my Gamera stands in the boxes they're in, so I wasn't sure if this was the right one, but it is definitely, because it actually has the date stamped there on the bottom of the movie, so that helps. Along with that, we have this cradle, which is what actually holds Gamera to the base. So we have a little peg there at the bottom, and that pegs right into this base here, and you can rotate that as needed. We also get the flying arms for Gamera, so we have a little ball peg there at the top, and then we can see the arm just kind of has that wing-like shape with the claws there at the end. Pretty nicely sculpted. Has some nice dry brushing over it as well. We have a pair of rear wings, these tiny little fins, and then we have the lower body bit. So this is the kind of tail and bottom of the shell that gets replaced and added on. So the swap for this is a little bit of a pain because you do have to remove quite a bit. So we take his arms up at the shoulder, and we unpeg those. As you can see there, I lost the hand in the process, but that's okay. The one kind of pain is he has this floating cup at the arm, so it's kind of important to keep that all together so you know where it goes. And then it's probably easier just to unpeg the legs from the torso, and then this kind of crotch section of his shell will actually pull out forward, and that gives us a little better access to his tail as well, so that can be popped out. So we can go ahead and pop in the lower torso section. It does take a little effort to get it so that it sits flush on there. And while I was removing parts, I forgot there's these little sections here on the shell, so those pop out. You really have to get your fingernail in there to get them to come out. And that opens up the ports for the rear fin, so you can kind of see there's this contour of the shell where it sticks up a little bit, and that matches with the fin. So you stick that in, and it sits relatively flush in there. Same goes for the opposite side. And then the arms peg into where the old arms went. So you just pop it into that ball socket, and then we are in full flying turtle mode. So he doesn't really have a lot of articulation in this mode, just the neck is left, and we'll get to articulation later, but we do have him with his wings outstretched. So we could take our display base, kind of rest him on there, and we have ourselves a flying turtle. So this is pretty cool. I don't feel like I'd be very inclined to use this all that often. I prefer my Gamera to be standing, and it is kind of a short flight stand, so you really can't have him flying that high over anything else. There's nothing here that seems like it would be compatible with a standard Tamashii stage, so you couldn't get him too far up, and I think he's too heavy to have that thin little arm, which is why they have this thicker arm on here. But it is an option, and is another way to display the figure if you so chose. For sculpt and paint, I think they did a really good job here on Gamera's head. We have the little fin going across the top of his head there, the bright green eyes, the sharp little tusks there at the base of his jaw. Most of the paint on here is kind of a dull gray, but that fits for the character. Inside the mouth itself, we have all the little individual teeth. It's not the cleanest paint job. There's a little bit of slop going on there, but it works okay. And then inside the mouth, we kind of have a darker red color with a slightly lighter pink color for his tongue. The neck has a really good wrinkly texture. We kind of continue the fin down the back of his neck, but it's much less prominent. It just has kind of like deep wrinkles and recesses. We can follow that down further to where his torso shell starts. And I know there's a correct word for that, and I don't remember it offhand, so I'm just going to call it by really dumb terms here. All that same texturing going down his arm. We have the nice bone-colored spike coming out of his wrist. It starts off dark and gets lighter towards the end. Then we have this kind of like brownish tan claws coming out of his hands there. I really like the sculpt of his hands. They give it that flipper kind of look where the fingers slowly get larger going towards the inside of the hand. I think that really works well for a Gamera design. The chest itself is really cool looking. It kind of bows out here at the front, giving it a more organic feel or a more bipedal feel, I guess, as opposed to the more flat shell we got on the previous Gamera versions. There's a lot of great kind of swirling textures inside of each of the plates of his chest armor, and overall looks really, really good. Spin him around, take a look at his back shell. I love these sharp edges going down the back. I also love that they're very kind of cracked and worn looking. All this kind of gunk throughout it. I don't know if it's supposed to be wear and tear or like barnacles and stuff growing on the back of his shell, but it really works. It really looks good. It gives it a lot of character. And I just love the kind of armored plating look with everything being layered on top of each other for the shell. And then the legs continue that same texture from the neck and arms. Also has a similar idea going on with the feet. It has a lighter color for the nails on the toes as opposed to the hands, not having as much of that brown going on there. But it also has that kind of webbed feel where there's not really much in the way of toes. It's just kind of this massive club foot thing going on. And then we have Gamera's short, stumpy little tail here. It kind of continues on that armored look from the shell there at the very top of it, and then kind of the rest of it looks like all the rest of his skin where it's that dark, wrinkly gray. For articulation, we have a couple joints here at the neck. So one at the base, one kind of at this top section here, and then one at the base of his head. So it gives it a lot of motion. It also helps keep the sculpt looking good, no matter which way you have it turned. We also have a ball joint here at the jaw, so it will hinge up and down, but also kind of move side to side and twist if you need it to. And he looks like he has tongue articulation, but mine doesn't move, so I'm not entirely sure if he actually does or not, if mine's just stuck, or if it just is a separate piece in there that's not meant to move. So on the arm, we have a ball joint here at the shoulder, so that will move a little bit in all directions. We also have kind of a ball joint here at the mid-arm, kind of his elbow joint. We can also swivel a little bit there, and then a ball joint at the base of the hand. I will say, as you just saw, the one that pops out here on his left side does tend to pop on and off when I move it. I will say that's the only part of him that's really comes off a lot. I haven't switched him into flying mode as much as I've switched out his arm, but the rest of the stuff for the flying mode doesn't seem to come apart quite as easily as the forearm here will, so that's really the only part where I've had a lot of problems. Nothing really throughout the body. At the leg, we have a ball joint at the top of the leg there at the hips, which has a pretty limited range of motion as well. We do have a hinge. I guess it's probably a ball joint, but mostly just hinges there at the knee, and then another couple joints there at the foot and ankle, give them a little more range of motion. You can actually get a decent amount out of the feet, just not a lot of forward and back at the hip, but it's Gamera. He's not going to be doing a lot of that. It's really just to get him in a standing position. And the tail is multi-ball jointed, so you have a pretty good range of motion here, being able to turn it whichever way. Being a short tail, you just don't get a lot just because of the length of it, but you do have some options there. For a size comparison, here's our Gamera 99 in the center with the Godzilla 2000 from Monsterarts there on the left, which came out in 1999, or the movie did at least, and the Bandai vinyl version of the same Gamera. I will say I really love this vinyl figure and how it looks, but some of the details like the claw on the end there and all that stuff just ends up being a little bulkier and less cool looking than the Monsterarts, where it's able to be a skinny piece and look more like a actual bone spike than just a kind of big tooth sticking out of his arm or something. Still, both are cool figures. So that's the Monsterarts Gamera 99 figure. I'm going to give this guy a solid recommendation. He does have some kind of goofy aspects to him in terms of that arm kind of falling off a little bit. And honestly, the articulation isn't great just because of the character design itself. But overall, I just really enjoy this. I love this look for Gamera. I really do think it is my favorite look Gamera's ever had, even though this isn't my favorite movie of all of them. I think Legion would be my favorite if I had to choose. I just think some of the design elements in this one are just really cool. That forward-facing spike on the wrist is much more brutal feeling than the elbow backward facing spike that he had before. His tusks look really awesome in this. The big spiky gnarly looking shell, the way it kind of keels forward on his chest to give him a more just predatory look, I think. I just really dig how this character looks, and I think Monsterarts really did justice with this figure. And it's a bit of a bummer at this point because while I haven't reviewed it yet, they also did the Gamera Guardian of the Universe version of the character, which was more or less just a rehash rehash of the Legion version with some slightly retooled parts on certain bits of it, but it doesn't seem like Monsterarts is really in a hurry to make anything else from this franchise. They've given us some really big Godzilla enemies and stuff like Ghidorah and Destroya and Biollante, but somehow I don't really see them doing a Legion figure. But it would be cool to see a Gauss or a Iris. Those are both much more normal sized characters, and it would be really nice to have cool versions of them to display on our shelves. But I kind of get the feeling that Monsterarts might be done with Gamera, or maybe give us a Showa version at some point. But I think unless a new Gamera movie comes out, we're probably not going to get much more from them. Honestly, I don't know if we're going to get much more kaiju from them. It seems like they're just all in on this Monster Hunter thing, which is a bit of a bummer for me because I don't really care about Monster Hunter. I want more giant men in suit monsters. That's what I want out of the line, but I'm a little worried we're not going to get any more. But let me know in the comments below, what other Gamera characters would you like to see done in the Monsterarts line? Whether it's from the old movies, the 90s movies, or even Gamera the Brave. But until next time, it's been our Outside the Box reviews, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.